We're going to be covering Chapter 7, the muscular system. Muscles make up about 42% of a man's body and 36% of a woman's body. Each muscle cell is also called a muscle fiber and contains protein filaments that slide over one another and shorten the muscle. This shortening creates a force that can move joints or internal organs. Two chemicals must be present in the cytoplasm in order for those contractions to occur, and that is calcium and adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. Okay, let's go back to talking about the three types of muscle cells, or muscle tissues. First, we have the skeletal muscle tissues. They have a striped appearance, and this is because of the arrangement of their filaments in an overlapping pattern that gives it that striped look. The cells themselves are long and cylindrical, and they have many nuclei in each cell that are pushed up to the edge of the cell because the cytoplasm is so full of contractile filaments. And most importantly, these muscle cells are voluntary. We can control them consciously, and they make up about 639 muscles of the body. Cardiac muscle cells make up the walls of the heart. They're also striated, they are branched in shape, and they connect to each other at what we call intercalated discs, and these are kind of a darkened band that you can see on a microscopic slide. They have only one nucleus, and it's usually centrally located in each of the cells. And this muscle tissue is involuntary. It's not under conscious control. These muscle cells also have a real need for constant supply of oxygen. This is why heart attacks occur so quickly, because these cells die very quickly if oxygen isn't brought to them on a regular or constant basis through a fresh blood supply. Both cardiac and skeletal muscles contract and shorten the length of the cell, and they usually relax again very quickly. The last type of muscle cell, smooth muscle cells, on the other hand, contract more slowly and relax more slowly. In fact, they can sustain contractions almost indefinitely, which is very different than cardiac and skeletal muscle cells, which would fatigue quickly. Smooth muscle cells are not striated. Their filaments are arranged in more of a lattice crisscross sort of design, and that allows them to shorten in all dimensions as they contract. They have a spindle-like shape, and they have one centralized nucleus. They are, of course, involuntary, and these muscle cell types line the internal organs and the blood vessels. Skeletal muscle is going to be the focus of the rest of our discussion. This tissue is composed of muscle fibers, or cells, and connective tissue, fascia. Typically, a muscle starts at one bone, which is usually called its origin, and then crosses one or more joints and inserts on another bone, and this is called the insertion site. We give the terms origin and insertion somewhat arbitrarily. The bony attachment that is least likely to move when the muscle contracts is referred to as the origin, and the bony attachment that is most likely to move is called the insertion. The central part of the muscle is called the belly of the muscle, and that's the main and the thickest part of the muscle. The attachments of the muscle to the bone is made of strong connective fibrous tissue called tendons, which are surrounded by synovial linings, or fluid secreting linings, that are lubricated to decrease friction. This is called a tendon sheath. Also, small sacs of synovial tissues, or some kind of like little pouches, called bursa, are located in places where the tendons cross sharp bony prominences. This provides extra protection for the tendons. The tendon is continuous then with the fascia that covers the whole muscle, and this overall covering is called epimysium. Inside, the muscle is divided into different groups of cells, and these are called fascicles, and they are each surrounded by connective tissue as well, and that is called perimysium. Then each individual muscle fiber or muscle cell is surrounded by a layer of tissue called the endomysium, which is also the cell membrane, or called the sarcolemma. Two types of skeletal muscle cells exist and are discussed in the literature. There's fast twitch and slow twitch. Fast twitch fibers have many filaments. They're very thick, large cells, and they store a lot of energy in the form of glycogen. They respond quickly and powerfully, but they also fatigue very quickly. On the other hand, slow twitch fibers have fewer filaments, they have more mitochondria, and they produce a lot of energy, ATP. So they don't contract as powerfully or as quickly, but they are more resistant to fatigue. We see these different fiber types more dominant in different types of sports. For example, in weight trainers, they have a lot more fast twitch fibers. They have bulkier muscles that are more powerful and contract quicker. On the other hand, we have people like distance runners who have a higher percentage of slow twitch fibers. And these are more resistant to fatigue, but they're a little more lean. As we saw also in the previous slide, the filaments of each fiber or cell are arranged in sarcomeres. A sarcomere goes from one Z-line, which is the center of the parallel thin actin filaments, to the next Z-line. In between the Z-lines run the thicker filaments, the myosin filaments, and the center of the myosin filaments is called the M-line. These arrangements create the sarcomeres. And you can see this nicely in this one slide here, showing the Z-line with the central M-line and then the opposite Z-line. As the thicker filaments slide over the thin filaments, the Z-lines come closer and closer together, and that's what creates the shortening of the cells. For different muscles, the muscle fibers can be arranged in various patterns. For example, A here we have orbicularis oris, the muscle around the mouth. The fibers are arranged in a circular pattern. Example B shows pectoralis major, and this shows a convergent arrangement of the muscle fibers with a very large origin and then converging on a small insertion. C, sartorius, shows a parallel arrangement of the muscle fibers. D, extensor digitorum longus, shows a unipennant arrangement, which is sort of like half a feather, where the muscle fibers run at a bit of an angle toward a tendon that then is very long and inserts at the insertion. Then E shows a multipennant arrangement, such as the deltoid muscle, where you have multiple little feather-shaped arrangements of the muscle cells. And then F shows a fusiform muscle, the biceps muscle, which is kind of a spindle shape with a very thick belly and a small origin and a small insertion. The last example there, G, shows a bipennant